Singapore has urged Israel to facilitate the immediate resumption of critical humanitarian aid to Gaza, amid intensifying hostilities and worsening conditions in the enclave. Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan made the appeal in a written parliamentary reply on 8 April 2025, responding to questions raised by 5 members of parliament from both sides of the House. He called on Israel to refrain from using aid as a bargaining chip, while also demanding the unconditional release of all remaining hostages held by Hamas. Balakrishnan noted that the humanitarian situation in Gaza had deteriorated further, with no aid allowed into the territory since 2 March. He expressed deep concern over the continued loss of civilian lives and the internal displacement of Palestinians. Civilian infrastructure, including medical facilities, as well as medical workers, must be accorded due protection, said Balakrishnan. We call on Israel to facilitate the resumption of critical life-saving humanitarian aid to Gaza. Such aid must not be used as a bargaining chip. He reiterated that Singapore has consistently called for all parties to respect international humanitarian law and prioritize the protection of civilians. The statement was made against the backdrop of renewed conflict in the Middle East, following the collapse of a ceasefire in early March. Since then, Israeli strikes have reportedly destroyed hospitals and resulted in the deaths of humanitarian workers, escalating concerns globally. According to media reports, on 23 March, 15 emergency personnel in Gaza were killed by Israeli forces. Autopsies showed the victims were shot with the intent to kill. The workers were affiliated with international and local humanitarian bodies, including the Red Cross, the Palestinian Red Crescent, the United Nations, and the Palestinian Civil Emergency Service. Balakrishnan responded to questions raised by MPs, including those about the viability of medical aid delivery and Singapore's broader humanitarian role in Gaza. Ong Mo Kyo GRC MP Nadia Ahmad Samdin asked about the safety of deploying Singaporean medical personnel and ongoing aid delivery efforts. Balakrishnan said the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had been in close contact with the Mercy Relief Team during their March mission to the West Bank. He highlighted the team's experience in delivering aid under high-risk conditions. I commend them for their efforts to help Palestinians on behalf of Singapore, he added. Singapore is currently working with regional partners to assess the feasibility of deploying further medical assistance by the Singapore Armed Forces. The Ministry of Defence has previously indicated that such plans are being explored, although safety and logistical considerations remain key concerns. Ao Kong MP from Workers' Party Dennis Tan asked if Singapore could offer treatment for seriously ill Palestinian civilians. Balakrishnan said there had been no requests to transport patients to Singapore for complex medical care to date. He explained that any such requests would require careful evaluation of the risks associated with long-distance transport and treatment viability. Chua Chu Kong GRC MP Zulkarnain Abdul Rahim raised questions on Singapore's plans for ongoing aid. Balakrishnan acknowledged that Israeli restrictions continued to hinder aid access, but stated that Singapore was actively seeking ways to collaborate with Middle Eastern partners. He added that Singapore intended to support long-term post-conflict recovery efforts through partnerships with the United Nations and other stakeholders in the region. The needs in Gaza will be significant, and Singapore will do our part to help, said Balakrishnan. Questions were also posed on Singapore's diplomatic stance and its efforts to support ceasefire negotiations. Aljunied GRC MPs Faisal Manap and Jalan Besar GRC MP Wan Rizal asked about Singapore's role in promoting a ceasefire. Balakrishnan reaffirmed the country's long-standing support for a negotiated two-state solution, aligned with relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions. He emphasized the importance of upholding international law and warned against unilateral actions that could hinder peace efforts. Singapore will continue to vote in favor of UN General Assembly resolutions that align with its principled positions, Balakrishnan said. However, he also cautioned that Singapore must remain circumspect about its capacity to influence the conflict's outcome. It falls ultimately on the leaders on both sides to find the political will, courage and imagination to resume negotiations to resolving this long-standing conflict, difficult as it may be, he said. Balakrishnan also highlighted the position of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which had earlier in 2025 reaffirmed its support for the rights of Palestinians to their homeland.